guidelines for media use in kids, the Academy of Pediatrics recommended no electronic social media use less than 2 years of age. If you do have a program that you'd like to watch with your 2-year-old or less, it's highly recommended that you sit down as a family or family unit and watch that program with that child. Preferably, obviously, more educational program. And then over 2 years, it's recommended less than 2 hours a day, which for those teenagers is a huge deal because they're on their phones much more than that. Some devices, electronic, social media can be used in a positive light. For example, if they're doing a school project, obviously they need to use the internet, use computer. A lot of school-based education and curriculum is now school-based. The teenagers have their laptops. The middle schoolers have their iPads, even down to elementary. So definitely, for education, research projects, definitely beneficial. Also, just staying connected with family. We're separated from family so much now. Excuse me. That, staying connected through social media, seeing grandma and grandpa, in Arizona or Florida, or cousins around the country or world, of course, that can be beneficial. The other things would be just staying connected with current events, middle schoolers, high schoolers, knowing what's going on in the world and the country with current events. Those can be beneficial. One of the negative impacts that we see for younger children, less than 5, if they're on electronics for extended period of time, is less social skills. So they don't know how to interact with their peers. They have greater temper tantrums because they don't know how to regulate their emotions because they are just in front of a screen, more than 2 hours a day. Of course, there's those exceptions that I included. If you're on a long road trip or traveling, then yes, you're going to have those more than 2-hour electronic time. But the day-to-day in and out of kids just being on screens constantly can definitely affect their social skills. We've seen increased rates of obesity throughout the age span, not only toddlers or preschool age, but even older kids that have higher rates of obesity just because they're not getting that physical activity outside of the screen time. I do address sleep issues in teenagers, even younger kids, and their electronics and gaming. I have kids come in all the time complaining, or teenagers complaining that, I have a hard time falling asleep. I'm always tired during the day. And I guess my first question I always go to is, what time are you shutting off your game? What time are you shutting off your cell phone? And it's surprising. Kids are on their phone until 11:30, midnight, even later, and they're just not getting enough sleep. I discussed, you're overstimulated by that screen. You need that quiet period of time before falling asleep. So I try to push, and when I talk to the parent at the end of the visit too, is making sure they're on board too, is we need to have electronics out of the bedroom. So no TV, no computer, no cell phone in the bedroom, and, make it a reasonable time. So the younger preteen, early teenagers, even sometimes 9:30 or earlier, getting that electronic out, that cell phone, and then the teenagers, have an appropriate bedtime. But using music on an old-time radio or some other device to listen to music because, that screen constantly is just overstimulating. So positive ways that you, as a parent or family member, can help curb the social media use and just use it as a more positive way. Definitely, I would say, is just be a role model for your child. I mean, you're a role model in other ways of, hopefully wearing your seatbelt when you're in the car, hopefully not texting and driving. So you're being a role model in those aspects of your child's life. But so, not using your phone at mealtime and overusing your own phone, trying to have more face-to-face conversations with your child. So putting your phone down at mealtime, hopefully putting your phone down while you're driving. That's been really impactful for myself. I've known some patients that have been impacted that way. And then just we talked about bedroom use, obviously not having electronics in the bedroom. And setting that example as a parent too. Hopefully you don't have your TV or your phone in your bedroom in the middle of the night. So, but I think the biggest thing is just going back to having that set time of conversation with your child. That we all need to put our phones down, whether that conversation is over a mealtime a couple times a week, whether it's in the car when you're transporting your kid to activities, of just having a full, heart-to-heart conversation with that child. Parents always ask too, are there rules for social media and use? And I go through every physical exam with my preteens to teenagers of, make sure you're not talking to anybody that you don't know on social media, gaming, make sure you don't meet anybody, because obviously the trafficking is real in even Iowa. And then just make sure that you know who you're talking to. If parents have further questions, a good resource would be the Academy of Pediatrics has healthychildren.org. And that website has actually a cell phone family media plan that's put out by one of the cell phone companies, and kind of goes through steps too of when a child might be ready for a cell phone, what age, kind of the steps and questions that you go through as a family and child to see if they might be ready for cell phone. Also a good resource of programs, like what programs are good, and video games are good for a child to be, or teenager to be playing and watching. So it's a really good resource, healthychildren.org.